Sermons of St. Alphonsus Liguori, 5th Sunday after Pentecost, on the sin of anger. Whosoever is angry with his brother shall be in danger of the judgment. Matthew 5:2. Anger resembles fire, hence, as fire is vehement in its action, and by the smoke which it produces obstructs the view, so anger makes men rush into 1,000 excesses and prevents them from seeing the sinfulness of their conduct, and thus exposes them to the danger of the judgment of eternal death. Whoever is angry with his brother shall be in danger of the judgment. Anger is so pernicious to man that it even disfigures his countenance. No matter how comely and gentle he may be, he shall, as often as he yields to the passion of anger, appear to be a monster and a wild beast full of terror. Iracundus, says St. Basil, humanam quasi legoram amitit, verre specimen indutus. But if anger disfigures us before men, how much more deformed will it render us in the eyes of God? In this discourse I will show, in the first point, the destruction which anger unrestrained brings on the soul, and, in the second, how we ought to restrain anger in all occasions of provocation which may occur to us. First point, the ruin which anger unrestrained brings on the soul. St. Jerome says that anger is the door by which all vices enter the soul. Omnium vitiorum gentia est iracundia. Anger precipitates men into resentments, blasphemies, acts of injustice, detractions, scandals, and other iniquities. For the passion of anger darkens the understanding and makes a man act like a beast and a madman. Colligavit ab indignatione oculos meus. Job 17:7. My eye has lost its sight through indignation. David says, my eye is troubled with wrath. Psalm 30:10. Hence, according to St. Bonaventure, an angry man is incapable of distinguishing between what is just and unjust. Iratus non potest videre quod justum est vel injustum. In a word, St. Jerome says that anger deprives a man of prudence, reason, and understanding. Ab omni concilio deturpat ut omnia ira scitur insanire credator. Hence St. James says, the anger of man worketh not the justice of God. James 1:20. The acts of a man under the influence of anger cannot be conformable to the divine justice, and consequently cannot be flawless. A man who does not restrain the impulse of anger easily falls into hatred towards the person who has been the occasion of his passion. According to St. Augustine, hatred is nothing else than persevering anger. Odium est ira diuturno tempore perseverans. Hence St. Thomas says that anger is sudden, but hatred is lasting. It appears then that in him in whom anger perseveres, hatred also reigns. But some will say, I am the head of the house, I must correct my children and servants, and, when necessary, I must raise my voice against the disorders which I witness. I say in answer, it is one thing to be angry against a brother, and another to be displeased at the sin of a brother. To be angry against sin is not anger, but zeal, and therefore it is not only lawful, but it is sometimes a duty. But our anger must be accompanied with prudence, and must appear to be directed against sin, but not against the sinner. For if the person whom we correct perceive that we speak through passion and hatred towards him, the correction will be unprofitable and even mischievous. To be angry, then, against a brother's sin is certainly lawful. He, says St. Augustine, is not angry with a brother who is angry against a brother's sin. It is thus, as David says, we may be angry without sin. Be ye angry and sin not. Psalm 4:5. But to be angry against a brother on account of the sin which he has committed is not lawful, because, according to St. Augustine, we are not allowed to hate others for their vices. Nie propter vitia lecet amines odice. Hatred brings with it a desire of revenge, for, according to St. Thomas, anger, when fully voluntary, is accompanied with a desire of revenge. Ira est appetitus vindictio. But you will perhaps say, if I resent such an injury, God will have pity on me, because I have just grounds of resentment. Who, I ask, has told you that you have just grounds for seeking revenge? It is you whose understanding is clouded by passions that say so. I have already said that anger obscures the mind and takes away our reason and understanding. As long as the passion of anger lasts, you will consider your neighbor's conduct very unjust and intolerable. But when your anger shall have passed away, you shall see that his act was not so bad as it appeared to you. But though the injury be grievous, or even more grievous, God will not have compassion on you if you seek revenge. No, he says, vengeance for sins belongs not to you, but to me. And when the time shall come, I will chastise them as they deserve. Revenge is mine, and I will repay them in due time. Deuteronomy 32:35. If you resent an injury done to you by a neighbor, God will justly inflict vengeance on you for all the injuries you have offered to him, and particularly for taking revenge on a brother whom he commands you to pardon. He that seeketh to revenge himself shall find vengeance from the Lord. Man to man reserveth anger, and doth he seek remedy of God? He that is but flesh nourisheth anger, and doth he ask forgiveness of God? Who shall obtain pardon for his sins? Ecclesiastes 28:1, 3, and 5. Man, a worm of flesh, reserves anger and takes revenge on a brother. Does he afterwards dare to ask mercy of God? And who, adds the sacred writer, can obtain pardon for the iniquities of so daring a sinner? Qua eronte, says St. Augustine, indulgentiam peccatorem obtinere poterit, qui praecipienti daret veniam non acquiescit. How can he who will not obey the command of God to pardon his neighbor expect to obtain from God the forgiveness of his own sins? Let us implore the Lord to preserve us from yielding to any strong passion, and particularly to anger. Give me not over to a shameful and foolish mind. Ecclesiastes 23:6. For he that submits to such a passion is exposed to great danger of falling into a grievous sin against God or his neighbor. How many, in consequence of not restraining anger, break out into horrible blasphemies against God or his saints? But at the very time we are in a flame of indignation, God is armed with scourges. The Lord said one day to the prophet Jeremiah, "What seest thou, Jeremiah?" And I said, "I see a rod watching." Jeremiah 1:11. "Lord, I behold a rod watching to inflict punishment." The Lord asked him again, "What seest thou?" And I said, "I see a boiling cauldron." Albeit verse 13. The boiling cauldron is the figure of a man inflamed with wrath and threatened with a rod, that is, with the vengeance of God. Behold then the ruin which anger unrestrained brings on man. It deprives him first of the grace of God, and afterwards of corporal life. Envy and anger shortens a man's days. Ecclesiastes 30:26. Job says, "Anger indeed killeth the foolish." Job 5:2. All the days of their life, persons addicted to anger are unhappy, because they are always in a tempest. But let us pass to the second point, in which I have to say many things which will assist you to overcome this vice. Second point, how we ought to restrain anger in the occasions of provocation which occur to us. In the first place, it is necessary to know that it is not possible for human weakness, in the midst of so many occasions, to be altogether free from every motion of anger. No one, as Seneca says, can be entirely exempt from this passion. Iracundia nolum genus hominum excipit. All our efforts must be directed to the moderation of the feelings of anger which spring up in the soul. How are they to be moderated? By meekness. This is called the virtue of the Lamb, that is, the beloved virtue of Jesus Christ, because like a lamb, without anger or even complaint, he bore the sorrows of his passion and crucifixion. He shall be led as a sheep to the slaughter, and dumb as a lamb before his shearer, and he shall not open his mouth. Isaiah 53:7. Hence he has taught us to learn of him meekness and humility of heart. Learn of me, because I am meek and humble of heart. Matthew 11:29. Oh, how pleasing in the sight of God are the meek, who submit in peace to all crosses, misfortunes, persecutions, and injuries. To the meek is promised the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are the meek, for they shall possess the land. Matthew 5:4. They are called the children of God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. Verse 9. Some boast of their meekness, but without any grounds, for they are meek only towards those who praise and confer favors upon them, but to those who injure or censure them they are all fury and vengeance. The virtue of meekness consists of being meek and peaceful towards those who hate and maltreat us. With them that hated peace I was peaceful. Psalm 119:7.